Hi, I'm Cassandra, and this video is going to walk you through how to file your federal return. TurboTax and other softwares online may offer free federal filing, but they do charge a payment processing fee, and I believe a larger fee if you want a direct deposit of your return. So to avoid that, it is very simple to file your own taxes. I'm going to go over how to file them if you are a 1099 and or a W-2 employee. Anything outside of that, I'm not familiar. We can probably briefly go over if you have dependents and children, but we're just gonna stick with the bare basic minimum here. So first you'll need a 1040 manual book. It looks like this. You can pick them up for free at your local library. If you don't have it, I will do my best to show what pages you'll need to refer to in terms of your tax amount due. And then you'll need a 1040 form. Make sure it says 2024 at the top. There are some online pages if you search 1040 form that are older versions, so make sure you pay attention to the date. 2024. We're in the year 2025. We're filing for last year's income, which is 2024. And then you'll need your W-2 and 1099 if you have both. And your 1099 is going to look something like this. So if you're a Grubhub employee, roadie, Papa Pal, DoorDash, you'll need to collect all of them. So if you work for multiple employees on a 1099, you'll need to collect all of your 1099 forms. And then you'll need a copy of your W-2 form, and it should look something like this. Some are much longer than this, and will have columns. So there'll be one column here and then 3 of them down here, and they're all of the same information. It's just meant for you to detach each one to send to your state and federal and to keep a copy for yourself. But also get your W-2. What you'll also need is probably a piece of scratch paper and a pen and a calculator. And this is going to be super easy. If you don't have that, I'll do my best to walk you through how to calculate your total income, what your deductible should be, and then what your tax liability will be. This is free to file a paper form to the IRS. All you need to do is get an envelope and a stamp and send it to them. And I think that with the current situation right now, it's best to put people in those positions at work versus using a third-party site that also just collects your data and resells it and then charges you a fee for it, which I don't think is morally sound or helps anybody. So this video is supposed to help me and help us all together that are probably in a similar boat that can't afford those fees, or maybe are frustrated with their own lack of knowledge of their own finances and their financial well-being, and potentially maybe just want to educate yourself on how to improve your life going forward. And so I hope that I can continue to do these videos going forward. Just let me know, but let's get started getting your W-2 and your 1099, and we're going to first calculate your total income. Okay, so we're going to get started. For myself, I have both a W-2 and 1099 for 2024 for last year. So I've got a W-2 form. The numbers are going to be a little wonky because it's a mock form I found online. But this is my actual 1099, and I'm just trusting you guys not to do anything harmful with it. So I've got both my forms here. I'm going to calculate my total wages. My total wages on the W-2, $37,847.06. And then we're going to take our wages from our 1099. And it looks like on box 1, it's $3,001.85. Those are my wages. So now I'm going to add them up. And I've got $40,848.91. Those are my wages. All right, great. Now let's move on to the other boxes. So on the 1099, most likely federal and state taxes were not taken out. If they were, you're going to see them on box 4 here, and it will show how much income tax was withheld. And then box 5 will show state income tax withheld. I'm not familiar too much with how 1099s are supposed to be structured. So just make sure that you follow along and make sure you find non-employee compensation for box 1, federal income tax withheld, and state tax withheld, because they could be numbered differently. Box 1, though, should be consistent with what your total income is on your 1099. On your W-2, you're going to also have the federal income tax withheld. And I'm sorry, this is a little blurry, but that'll be box 2, federal income tax withheld. And then you should have your state tax, which will be box 17. I don't know why it's not consistent in an order, but I can guess the reason why is to make this really, really complicated for people so that they rely on other sources to do their taxes for them. So this is box 17, state income tax withheld. We're going to highlight or circle it, however you want to go about it. Federal income tax withheld. I've got box 2. All right. Nothing for the 1099 for federal or state income tax withheld. So I'm not going to highlight anything because we don't need to. So now we're going to say federal tax on our piece of scratch paper. Federal tax. And you can say withheld so that you don't get confused here. And how do you spell that? I have no idea, but we're going to do our best. Federal tax withheld is $4,238.29. Again, 1099, nothing here. Great, that's our total federal tax withheld. State tax withheld equals box 17. See how I almost went over there? It's confusing. Box 17, $1,849.21. 1099, no state tax withheld. I'm not going to grab anything from that. That's it. Those are my total taxes I've already paid for 2024. All right, so now we're going to move on and we're going to open up the booklet, the 1040 booklet, and your 1040 form. I would suggest, I like to do this as well, as I would get multiple copies of the 1040 form. One for your own kind of draft version in case you make an error in writing this out. And then one because you're going to also have to send a copy to your state tax authority. So you'll need at least 2, one for federal and one to send to your state tax authority. And then I also like to have maybe 3 or 4 total copies just for my draft, and then a copy for myself. Of course, you can use your iPhone, or if you have another phone, and take a picture of them or scan them and save them to a file folder on your phone so that you can reference them later on in the years if need be. So it's best to keep copies of these because you never know. Also, in the state of Oregon, where I had wages last year, I'm now in Los Angeles, California, but in Oregon, they also have a kicker tax credit that they provide every 2 years. So if I don't work in the prior year, I'm not eligible. And so in order to show proof of that, I would have to keep a copy of my taxes that have been filed already. So I'm going to pause this video, give you a break, make sure you can just get organized, get your 1040 forms, and then we're going to start with our draft 1040 forms, and we're going to start filling out the information. Okay, so let's get started with filling out the form. Easy part is you just need to fill out your first and middle name here, your last name. If you're filing a joint return, you're going to put both of your names here. Again, I'm not too familiar with all the benefits of doing that, so this is just strictly basic. Your social security number is going to go on the right-hand side, your home address, the city and town, state, and zip code, and then your filing status. This is going to be typically for a single filing. This video is for a single filer, so you're going to check mark single. If you're head of household, so if you're the main wage earner, you're going to want to check head of household here if you've got multiple people living in your home that are also wage earners. And then digital assets. I never say that I have sold or bought and sold digital assets, so I'm going to say no. If you do get a form, let's say you have a Robinhood account and you have invested in cryptocurrency, you're going to want to grab that 1099. I think it's a 1099B form. And then you can say yes, but you'll also have to fill out additional paperwork for that. So that's if you made a profit. Also, if you've made a loss, a significant loss, you can possibly reduce that from your total income. But again, this video is not going to go over all the extra benefits of filing your taxes and extra unique situations that you may have. If someone can claim you as a dependent, so if you've got someone taking care of you, you can mark that you are a dependent, your spouse as a dependent. Again, I'm not too familiar with that, those consequences there. All right, and then your children, your dependents, you're going to want to put all of their information, social security number, the relationship to you. This is important because you'll get a child tax credit. It'll just boost your return or reduce your total income on your tax liability. So you're going to want to put that information there. All right, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the form. I've never used that phrase before in my life until just now, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm craving steak and a potato, like I always am. All right, so we're going to go through, and we're going to go through each line. Again, I'm not going to cover all of the unique situations, so we're not going to fill out every single box here because there's no need. If we don't need to fill out a box, what I like to do is I like to put a line, or you can do NA, or I think you can just leave it blank. But just in case someone gets a hold of your tax form, let's say, and they like to go through people's mail and open them up and mess around with your whole situation and put in whatever they want and then file it. I don't know why, but it's best just to maybe cross those boxes out, however you want to do it. So this is going to be your total amount from your W-2. And this is the reason why I had separated your W-2 income here. And it's good to mark it. And then your 1099. Because we're not going to use the total amount at the top. We're going to use the amount on your W-2 plus your 1099. So let me grab this other pen here. And I'm just going to start because I'm confident that I have my total income numbers correct. So W-2, I've got 37,000, 847.06. The IRS doesn't care about these small pennies, decimals, so you can round up. I always just put the total amount because I'm not putting in extra work to do all of that. And then the wages not reported on forms W-2. So I'm going to put, again, if you've got multiple 1099 forms, you're going to calculate your total 1099 on your piece of scratch paper. So my total 1099 income is $3,001.85. All right. Now we're going to move on to, I'm going to skip actually all of this here because I know that it's not going to apply to me. And most likely, it's not going to apply to you. Again, if you've got a unique situation, it's best to reach out to a tax accountant, or you can do one of those third-party online sites to help you with this. But this is meant, again, this video is just for simple, basic, filing your federal return. You don't have a unique situation. You just have a 1099 W-2, and you want to save a couple $100. Okay, so let's move on to the next section of the form. This section would apply if you have a brokerage account and you buy and sell securities or bonds and you have dividends that you want to report. This is going to be found on a 1099-B form, but again, I'm not going to go over the details of all of that, but this is where that would apply. So I'm going to X out of this because this is not going to apply in our situation. Also, Social Security benefits here too. All right, standard deduction. So this is where we get a little bit excited. So the reason why the IRS provides a standard deduction is what they're saying is they're saying, hey, we're going to be nice to you. And we're going to say, instead of calculating what the amount of tax that you owe for last year based on your gross income, we're going to give you the standard deduction amount, a deduction amount. That means that we will reduce your income by this amount so that we calculate what your net amount after this deduction, what your taxes are going to be. So it's kind of like you know, instead of buying a carton of eggs for $6.99, Trader Joe's gives me a coupon for $3 off and says, never mind, you only have to pay $3.99. So that's pretty much kind of what a standard deduction is. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but that's what it is. And it usually increases every year. If they did not provide a standard deduction, we would be calculating our tax amount based on our gross wages for last year, which is obviously going to be higher. So the higher the income that you have, the more taxes you can expect to pay the IRS. The difference between a standard deduction and an itemized deduction would apply in the case if you have a self-employed business or you have a business and you itemize all of your deductions for the year. That could apply for a 1099 employee, say if they pay for gas, a cell phone bill. You would have to look at what would be qualified to itemize your deductions. For myself, I know that I haven't paid more than $14,600 in gas and my phone bill for last year. So I'm going to use their standard deduction because you can't use both. You have to use one or the other. That's what they allow. You can use their standard deduction or you can do an itemized deduction. You cannot combine the two. So I just want to make that clear. You can't combine your itemized deductions for your, I can't say, well, I spent $5,000 in gas last year, so let me go ahead and reduce my income from that and then also reduce my income by the standard. You can't do that. If your itemized deductions are more than this, then it's beneficial for you to go the itemized deduction route. And you, of course, are going to have to fill out a separate form, and that's more work. So right now we're going to stick with the standard deduction. So they're saying for this year, single or married filing separately, your standard deduction is $14,600. So we're going to skip ahead to line 12 here, and it says standard deduction or itemized deductions. And here's itemized deductions from Schedule A. So in case you're interested in looking at that and researching how can I do my itemized deductions, because I know my deductions for last year is more than this amount, go on to the IRS Gov website and search Schedule A and start figuring out how to do that. I don't know. So I don't know how to walk you through that, but it should be pretty simple. So in this box 12, I'm going to put 14,600 is the standard deduction I'm going to use. Box 9, and let me highlight this for you guys so that we know what we're looking at here. We've got box 1A and box B. Box 1A was our W-2, box B is our 1099, and then box 9, they want us to calculate our total income. So they're saying, here are all of the other options of income that you could have for last year, and we want you to put them all out, itemize them out so that we can now calculate on line 9 what your total income for last year is. So my total income is, got my scratch paper here, 40,000. Just go over to line 9, 40,848.91. That's my total income. All right, great. And then it says adjustments to your income, subtract line 10 from line 9. This is your adjusted gross income. And this is from Schedule 1. We're going to ignore that. Doesn't apply to our situation. So my adjusted gross income is the same, 40,848.91. And most likely, if you don't have a unique situation, your total adjusted gross income is going to be the same as what we calculated on our piece of scratch paper here, your total gross income. Standard deduction. All right, we've got that. These are not going to apply here, line 13 and line 14. This would be for business income purposes, and we're not going over that in this video. So I'm going to get rid of those. Now it says subtract line 14 from line 11. So I'm going to say 14,000 is my standard. I'm going to put this piece of scratch. So 40,000 $848.91 minus my standard deduction, $14,600. Let me get my calculator here. Okay, so I've calculated what my income would be after the standard. And I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and hopefully this doesn't confuse you, but this is for adding additional deductions here. So instead of crossing this out, we're going to put the same standard deduction we're using, which is $14,600 here in box 14. It's not going to make a difference if you'd already made that error. Hopefully you have a draft here. You can write it, initial on the side, cross it out, and put in the correct number here on the margin, or just leave it blank and just calculate what your total after deduction amount is going to be. So I've got $40,848.91 as my gross income, standard deduction, $14,600. This is asking subtract line 14 from line 11. So what's your total standard deductions you're using? We're going to subtract that from line 11, which is your total wages. And that amount for me is $26,248.91. This is your taxable income. And so what I explained earlier is that instead of calculating based on your gross income, what your taxable liability is, their IRS is saying, well, never mind, we're allowing you to only just use this amount to calculate what your tax liability is. So now we've got that portion here. The back we're going to go through, and this is going to be really simple, and hopefully this isn't overwhelming to you already. I hope this is explaining so far exactly what you need to do and the purpose of this. So what we're going to do is open the 1040 manual, and we're going to go to the tax liability page. And it's a 2024 tax table. So again, these amounts also change every year. That's why it's important to get the 2024 version. And we are going to find what the taxable income is. So on the top of the page, it'll show you if line 15, taxable income is at least but less than, we're going to go and find the columns. This looks so confusing at first glance, I know. And I don't know why the font is so tiny here. But again, like I had mentioned earlier, it's probably just to make it confusing on purpose, and or the system just hasn't been updated in 1,000 years. I don't know when we started doing this, but a long time, okay? So we're going to say our taxable income is $26,248.91. So now I've got to go through the tables here, and I've got to find approximately where my amount lands. So 26,000 because I have 26,248.91 on my form as my tax liability. And remember, it says at least but less than. So we're going to scroll all the way down to the column down here, 26,000. I've got 26,200, and then I've got 250. So I'm not at 250 yet, close, but not. So I'm at 26,200, and then but less than 26,250. And I am single. All right, so I found my tax amount liability, which is $2,915. I'm going to take my scratch paper and I'm going to write that down. Tax liability is at least 26,200, but less than 26,250 is my taxable income. So that means my tax liability is $2,915 so far. All right, so $2,915 is my calculated taxable income. What we're going to work on next is we're going to say, okay, so the IRS is saying that based on my total gross income and the deduction amount they're allowing me for 2024, this is my tax liability. IRS is saying, well, you owe us this based on this calculation. But I also have paid federal tax and state tax from my W-2 form. So now we're going to calculate and say, well, no, I don't, because I've already paid these amounts. So now we're going to go through and go to the back, and that's what we're going to work on next. Okay, so this should move pretty fast. So the tax, and that means they don't explain this. So that can be confusing because you're like, okay, great, tax. Wow. Awesome. See instructions. What instructions? Have no idea. Well, we just went over that. All right. So your tax liability from IRS calculated is $2,915. So we're going to put that in this box. This isn't committing us to anything yet. This is just saying this is the calculated amount that we owe to the IRS without taking into regard the fact that we've already paid taxes. Okay. All right, and then you've got all of these additional items that could apply to your situation, but in my situation, it does not apply, and most likely, if you don't have any of these, a unique situation like I explained, these aren't going to apply to you either. So I'm just going to skip ahead, and I know that my tax is $2,915, calculated from the IRS, okay? And again, you can put a line, mark it all the way down if you want to, because that doesn't apply. Federal income tax held from W-2 and 1099. And like I had mentioned earlier, it's possible you might have that withheld, but most likely you probably don't. So you're going to add up all of your federal taxes that were withheld from both your W-2 and 1099 if that does apply to you. In this situation, this is just W-2. Tax withheld. So federal income tax withheld, total amount $4,238.29. Great, we've got all of that. Earned income credit is very important. So if you've earned, I believe, less than $15,000 for the last year, you could get a credit. So that means just an additional amount that could either reduce your tax liability or increase your return for the year. So those, that tax table is going to be located in your book. And that is on, let's see what page I had it marked on. Page 38. Page 38 and 39. And then you would have to refer to the tax table that is similar to the tax liability table we had. Earned income credit also has our own table to give you those credit amounts based on what your income was. So I believe for last year, we can just quickly go over, let's see, if you're single, I'm just looking for the lowest amount possible. So if you're single, okay, here's the amount. $18,500, but less than $18,550, you could qualify for a $5 income credit in your tax liability. So obviously it's the reverse. So of the tax liability based on your gross amount, it works in reverse, and it says the less money that you made for last year, the more credit we will give you. So if you didn't make hardly anything, $2,800 will give you a $216 credit. And if you have children, your credit could be more. All right. So that's just a brief overview. Again, I'm not going to go over any of this. So we're going to X that out because that's not applying to my situation. This is your total other payments and refundable credits. That doesn't apply. So I'm going to X it out. Total payments that I've made to the federal IRS already is $4,238.29. Awesome. Okay, so now let's calculate what your tax liability or your tax refund will be for the year. So right here on line 34, it says if line 33 is more than line 24, subtract line 24 from line 33. It's like a little word game just to kind of throw you off a little bit. But what it's saying is line 33, so the taxes that you've already paid for last year, is it more than what the IRS says that you owe for last year? Yes, $4,238.29, what I've already paid for my W-2 tax withheld, is more than what the IRS is requiring me to pay them, which is $2,915. So it is. So we're going to subtract those and get the difference. So right now I'm going to calculate that, and I'm going to put it on my piece of scratch paper. So I'm going to say the difference is difference of tax. Okay, so we calculated the difference of taxes versus the taxes that I've already paid versus what the IRS says that I owe them. And I show a difference of $1,323.29 that I've overpaid because I already paid this and IRS says I owe this. So I'm going to put that in line 34, which is $1,323.29. All right, so amount of line 34 you want refunded to you. You're going to put your banking information, indicate it's a checking or savings account, and then amount of line 34 you want applied to your 2025 estimated tax. So they're saying, do you want to prepay your next year taxes? We'll hold it in a what's called an escrow account for you, where the IRS uses those funds so that they can invest and make an interest off holding those funds for you until your taxes are due. And you're going to say, hell no, I'm going to get my full refund now so that I can manage my own money and try to make more off of it myself. So we're going to put in your information, your bank information, if you want them to direct deposit it to you. And you're going to say the amount of line 34 you want refunded to you, I want the entire amount to myself. So I'm going to put the same number, $1,323.29. And then if I want direct deposit, I'm going to put in my information, my checking account information, routing number, and account number. If I want a check, a mailed check that can take who knows how long, months, days, years, I don't know. You can also just leave that information blank and wait for a check, and you might have to call them and remind them that you are owed money. If this amount was less than the amount that they say that you owe, you have an amount that you owe them. So you would have to put in that information in box 37. So let's say these numbers were reversed, or let's say the amount that you've already paid to the federal IRS for last year from your wages was only $1,000. You only paid $1,000 taken out of your wages. Well, they're going to say, well, the difference of those two, you still owe us $1,915. So you would put that in box 37, and then you would have to either write a check and send it along with your 1040 form to say that you satisfy your tax payments, or you can indicate it here, and then you can set up a payment plan with them to pay those over. I believe they allow 72 months to pay those back. And that's why you'll see the estimated tax penalty. So you would have to go through those instructions and calculate it yourself. In the past, I have left, when I owe taxes, I just put the amount in box 37, and then I followed up with them and got on a payment plan. So I didn't go through all of this. It's a lot of work that you probably don't want to do either, and you can just give them a phone call or go online and set up a payment plan yourself. All right, third-party designee, that's not going to apply to me. That's allowing another person to discuss my financials and tax information with the IRS, and I'm going to say no. I'm responsible for myself, and I'll take care of my own business. So you're going to sign here. You're going to put your signature, today's date, your occupation you can indicate there. I don't know why they need it, but just be nice and put it there for them in case they need it for whatever important reason. And then a PIN. If you have a PIN number that protects your information from fraud, identity fraud, which I also had from the IRS. I got a PIN number because someone had accessed my tax information, and that's why I stopped using those online tax assistance platforms, because my information was sold to a fraudulent party where they tried to get child tax credit. I forget what it was called, but I was like, I don't have any children, so that was fraud. Nothing was successful in terms of that party getting any payments, but they attempted to. So I got a PIN number, but I don't trust to use it and write it down on anything, so I'm not going to put it here. You can put your phone number and your email address in case they need to reach out to you if there's an issue with filing your tax form. But that's it. That's it. We're done. All you need to do is get an envelope, fold it 3 ways. If you don't know how to do it, this is how you do it. Fold it in 3 ways. You always want the first portion with your contact information right up front, so that when you stick it in the envelope, it's the first thing that someone pulls out and sees, and they can open it and go through your taxes. And you'll need to also include a copy of your W-2 form and a copy of your 1099. That's why I said to make copies, and you're going to include them with your 1040, and you're going to put them all in the same envelope, and you're going to get a stamp, and you're going to stick it in the mailbox, and then you're done with your taxes. And if you've got a refund on the way, again, you'll have a direct deposit to your account information, or you can wait on a check. How those online platforms get you is because people, and I understand because I've been that person myself, you want your money right away. So you're willing to spend $100 to $200 in order to get a refund of $1,323. But it's not beneficial to you. It really isn't. That's a lot of money you're spending to get this amount back. And $200 is quite a bit. That can be used for a car payment in a lot of people's situations. So don't fall for that trap, because that is what they do. And don't fall for the trap because they also profit off of you. They sell your information to third parties. Just like I mentioned earlier, I got scammed, and that's why I stopped using it. It's not safe. It's not good. You can be a little more patient. You can make some money. If you're 1099, you can make up that $200 right now and stick it and put it aside, and instead of spending it with another third party in order to get your refund right away. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Do this. This is good practice for you. It's good practice because now you can be more involved in how this process works, and you can be more involved in your finances, like explaining the itemized deductions. Now, hopefully this video will get you thinking, well, yeah, how can I reduce my total tax liability even more so? What can I do? And hopefully this prompts you to go and research on your own how to do taxes more thoroughly. What kind of credits can I get? Would that apply to my situation? If I do X, Y, and Z and prepare for 2025, what can I do to reduce my tax liability or increase my total refund? And that's the purpose of doing also this form on your own, is to hopefully provide initial education to further it. Don't rely on people who are just continuing to profit off of you and who don't honestly want to help you, because they don't. They're not there to help you. They're here to make money off of you. And that's what this whole scheme and scam is about. Do it yourself. I believe in you. Thank you for watching this. And I just want to take a moment and sincerely thank you if anybody, hopefully someone, at least one person watches this, and hopefully you're able to follow along. I know it was pretty quick and maybe kind of a little messy, and I'm sorry for my handwriting, and I'm working on it. But who writes anything anymore except to do your taxes? But hopefully I can continue to do these. I think it's really important, especially now that we become educated in our finances. I recently realized that there isn't much I can do in terms of helping other people that have been in my similar situation of not being grown up with the tools and the skills to know how to improve their wealth, or at least have a chance of just being educated in how finances work. I wasn't surrounded by that. So that's what prompted me to educate myself and to continue educating myself. But I'm also hit with walls where I can't go any further because I'm not what big firms are looking for. So this video and your donation, if you are kind enough and you thought this was helpful, please donate down below in the link below. And just it'll help me hopefully potentially make more of these videos to help people educate themselves, help me educate myself so that I can work for people that are like me and people that are overlooked. That's my main goal and main mission for the last 10 years or so, is how do I align myself on that path? So your donation will help me do that, please. If you can't donate, please just at least watch this and hopefully grab something from it. If you hated me and you hated this video, please leave the nastiest comment that you can think of. The nastier, the better. It'll definitely give me a little giggle. I appreciate you all, and I love you all, and I believe in you all. Thank you.